the new look of the Eurasian live stream. So using a new streaming service, and it's got a different interface. It's sort of got the you can actually put the stream box on the actual screen, so you can actually see it. What people's messages are, a bit like OBS, but it's a sort of like it's got some integrated elements. So we'll give it a try, see what it looks like, and literally play around with it. And hopefully I can get a few things working in that regard. Let's make sure that it's popping up and actually working in the way it should. Yep, that's come through. Fabulous, good. That can show up like that in that regard. So, yep. Great. Yeah, thanks, Blinky. G'day, Alex. The only damn thing is I've got the chat box at the bottom. Okay, so my two chat boxes will not fit on here properly. Oh well, can't do much about it. Yeah. So this is the sort of new look. So actually, it's not a bad interface, guys. You know, it's sort of that was part of the testing. I had people don't know, I had a bit of a get together with some of the lads, and we tested a few things just to make sure. But I don't mind the interface. It looks pretty good. It's got a snazzy type interface. It does have a bit of a delay, yeah, but it works. As I said, I'm trying to get the issue. I don't know how to get around it, but I know compared to like the actual delay between the two, but as long as it's actually the stream is actually continuous, there's no buffering. There's no buffering, is there, guys? Bloody hell, you're up late. Anybody see any buffering? Stream is okay. Thanks, Alex. Great. Yep. Oops. Yeah, it just takes a while to come through here on this one. It's a bit slower than the StreamYard thing. It sort of feeds through like the StreamYard, but it doesn't jump. It just sort of feeds through. You just have to keep an eye on it to sort of go with the actual flow, so to speak. So it's a different style. Sort of people's names and questions sort of pop up in a more pronounced way, which is a nice thing. I actually like that. And it doesn't actually move like StreamYard up. It actually sits where you're actually at, and I have to move it, which is a nice element. I dislike that StreamYard where it auto sort of moves continuously, the actual stream. G'day, the man. But where with the other approach, I don't have this problem. It's with this one, I can manually control the movement and all that, and I like it in that regard. Does come across like that, which is good. I actually prefer it coming across when it's a big long question, that it comes right through like that and doesn't sort of, just crumple in and all that. It's got a number of nice features, the way you can actually around, which is quite interesting. So it's got a few nice features to it when you combine things and you're sharing things and all that. So I don't mind it. I like it in some regards. Anyway, good morning to all. Not able to stay tonight. Fair enough, Angela. But have a query. Irish chemist tells me this week that they don't stock vitamin K because too dangerous. What? She takes vitamin D and no K, interferes, blood clotting, thoughts. No. That's just ridiculous. K1 is the blood clot. K2 isn't. So I think she's confused about, a lot of people are confused when it comes to vitamin K. They all think about vitamin K1. See, traditionally, that's the one that actually creates the clotting factors in the liver. And primarily, it's all the carbohydrates that actually have K1. So vitamin K1 is primarily in vegetables. There is a bit in some animal foods, but it's very small, and the body can produce it itself, some of it. But it is very high in plant foods. Now, what K1 does, it actually is required to produce clotting factors, and also does slightly push up clotting factors. But that's K1 from plants. Menaquinones, so the K2, which is the vitamin K2, which is the the other K, there's K1 and K2, they're a whole lot of menaquinones, from, I think it's 2, trying to think now, up to 13. So there are different menaquinones. The big ones are menaquinone 4, which is the animal form, which is endemic throughout the whole body, required, very extensively required. All animal foods have menaquinone 4. Every single animal on this planet has menaquinone 4. It basically, it is the main thing. Very few humans have anything else. So, yeah, I know what Chris Master John says. Yeah, and that's exactly what I don't want MK4 in high doses to be involved in clotting. All you need is small amounts of clotting factors. You don't need massive amounts of clotting factors. So that's why MK4 is so safe. It does a whole lot of other biological processes. So, anyway. So basically, yeah, it does not have an effect on clotting factors, as AG mentions up there, and that's very much clear. So she doesn't know what, or he, or whatever, whoever they are, doesn't really understand, or basically maybe thinking of K1 rather than, because when you say K, most people think vitamin K1. That's what they think, because they think in menaquinones, all the K2s. So that's where the confusion is. So MK4, not an issue, does not cause any clotting factors whatsoever. Nothing to be concerned about. So, yes. Good to see you, Melina. How's life in Poland? Dave's here. G'day, Dave. From Barcelona. How do you like my new interface? Looks good, doesn't it? Snazzy. You got the screen literally flying away there. Yes, exactly. And that's, yeah, I would love to get rid of my Candida, but not sure how to. What I've learned so far is that Ruteri B and A supplement destroy the Candida biofilms. Yep, exactly. That's what, that's, as I said, if you need to fix your gut microbiome, remember that thing that I actually, taurine also can help slightly, but not that much. But the large ones are the, vitamin D, vitamin A, the B complex, the Ruteri, which goes after these sort of pathogens. There is a substance on iHerb that does like a I forget what its name is. What is it called again? Trying to remember these things. And it does what is called a candida flush. Now, see if I can find it. Here it is. Let me just share that. And we'll get out the shared screen. The nice thing about it is I can actually keep the shared screen up here, and I can actually play around with it. So, which is good. I can turn on, turn off, and it just sits there. I don't have to sort of manage all that. So it's got some nice features. This sort of interface in that regard. So anyway, let's go back where I was. That's the only thing is when I put a comment in there, I should use the other window. It actually moves me. So it's a bit annoying. So yeah, so basically the B vitamin is very important to basically restore the beneficial bacteria. The D as well helps those beneficial bacteria. A helps with the actual with the collagen degrading enzymes that are along the gut lining. And D, but A is the big one. So they do the D's for the major, what I call the major mucosal layers. So with the respiratory system and stuff like that. So, but they all play a bit of a role. They're very important in supporting in that regard. Anyway, let's move on. Yes. Hi, Kitty. Yep. For me. And hey, Dave from Blinky. And Bjorn's here. Good to see you, mate. Top of the morning. Ah, yes, to you ladies. Good to see you as well, mate. And what are your thoughts on Chris Master John saying MK4 is not very good at supporting blood clotting? You don't need it. I mean, your body actually, if people think that you need, your body actually sorts out, the liver can very easily utilize a number of substrates there to produce as much clotting factors as it requires. The last thing we need to do is be adding foods that actually are pushing up clotting factors. So, yeah. I mean, even the Inuit, who've got zero animal foods, even the Maasai, who have got zero animal foods, still produce clotting factors. The difference is they don't overproduce them in particular. Now, the reason why the actual, vitamin A actually breaks down fibrinogen, which is a clotting factor. Your body can produce clotting factors very easy, so don't worry too much about that. It's just, a red herring. Otherwise, the Inuit and the Maasai would be bleeding to death. Now, people say, oh, well, the Inuit, they don't clot very well. They tend to bleed longer. That's the reason for that is because they also consume far more omega-3s. And omega-3s tend to also reduce clotting factors. So it's not only the animal fat soluble vitamins like the retinol that's playing a role, but you've also got basically a lot of omega-3s. And that's another factor why the Inuit have that, but they're not dying. On the opposite, they, like the Maasai, have perfect cardiovascular disease, zero in their traditional diet. And the Maasai, as George V. Mann found, they still had good blood pressure into their 80s. This whole notion that we need exogenously to add shitloads of stuff in, some supplementing to provide clotting factors, as if human species or all animal species for thousands of years required supplements to basically manage their clotting. I mean, that's just ridiculous. Unless you've got some genetic reason, then take a K1 thing. The majority of people don't have a genetic reason for K1. The majority of people are usually create too much clotting factors and are asked by doctors to eliminate all K1 foods. If you ask a doctor, if somebody's on like warfarin or, that rat poison that actually keeps let's say you've had a pacemaker put into you because you've, had a major operation in your heart, and that pacemaker has the potential of getting clotted. Well, those people aren't dying from clotting factors, even though they're reducing their clotting factors with medication. And they are told by their doctors to avoid green leafy vegetables like the plague because they increase clotting factors. So I don't know where this nonsense. Who gives a shit? The body creates as much as it requires, genetically demand-driven, basically on what it needs. It doesn't have to create, or we don't have to encourage it to produce more. If you look at the studies, it's not a good idea to encourage more clotting factors. It tends to basically shorten your life. So I don't know what, this is, again, the reductionist nonsense. Oh, this doesn't, who gives a shit? It's again reductionist fucking nonsense from Chris Wanker John, on this sort of thing. He should be ashamed of himself pushing that sort of crap on people, this reductionist nonsense. I mean, what is wrong with him? MK4 is endemic through every single animal species. It's the only metaquinone of K2 that is basically endemic through all organ meats. Organ meats are very high MK4. If it wasn't required, I mean, why the fuck do organ meats have so much in it? God almighty, the pseudo crap that he comes up with, reductionist nonsense. Don't listen to that crap, guys. You're gonna harm yourselves if you listen to that nonsense. -6, fantastic. I hope you're snuggly. You got something warm on. Yeah, well, we know, Blinky. We know you live in Western Australia, but you're caged in over there by your premier. I mean, so who cares? It's like my sister. She lives over there now with you in that area, and she basically brags, oh, how warm it is here. What's the temperature in Hobart? And I just go, yeah, liver has a lot of the metaquinones. That's true as well. But the highest metaquinone that liver has will be MK4, and most organs have MK4 because it's the most important one for most cellular functions that are K-dependent processes. Exactly. Don't worry yourself about it. The last thing you want to be doing is basically taking vitamin D and having very little metaquinone 4 in your diet, and ending up slowly calcifying yourself. God. Yes. Oh, it's quite cool. Quite on the chilly side in the Netherlands as well, Alex. Oh, you got something in common with Melina. Oops. G'day. Cecile, good to see you here. And I believe it does. Yeah, it's quite warm down there, close to the Gulf of Mexico. You're welcome. Okay, what's Dave asking? Harry, have you heard that the US prof who put her MS into remission? Yep, yeah, I know. I've talked about her in the past on a number of occasions. Her protocol included loads of, organ meats, exactly. Because organ meats basically have choline, taurine. Remember, taurine actually is really important for the brain. It actually kills removes, your beta amyloid, removes a lot of the fibrotic tissue, so it actually clears up a lot of the cellular debris in your brain, and also in other organs as well. It's one of its roles of many, countless things, plus it has antioxidant things. So that's one. Then R-alpha lipoic acid, a master electron donor for basically antioxidant capacity, very high in organ meats. All the precursors for glutathione, very high in organ meats. So you name it. Phospholipids, very important. All the cholesterol, phospholipids, vitamin A, you name it, it's in the liver. So that's why she was able to reverse, because of the organs that she was taking. She was heavily deficient, and it turned her life around. You've probably missed it, but I have spoken about Terry Walls, both on this live stream, on Bart's live stream, and quite a few others. And yes, the organ meats were the big one, because all the B vitamins and all the fat soluble vitamins and all that, it's the perfect food for people that are severely nutrient deficient and depleted. And she was, because I think she was on I can't remember, vegetarian or vegan diet, one of the two. So she woke up to herself and saved her life. Yeah, politicians are all bastards everywhere you go. Nothing new there. Okay. Oh, come on. Move. Also, if you go full screen, you still get to see the chat as well. Yep. That's good. That's good. Thanks for letting me know about that. Blinky. Yeah, I wasn't sure whether it does that or not or whatever. But yeah, if that keeps it up there, it's good that it keeps the chat in full, so yeah, it's got some good features. I'm happy with it. It's not too bad in that. Just going on off previous question, is there an order you would take these supplements? Those eating carbs while trying to get rid of. Does eating carbs while trying to get rid of candida make it harder? Yeah, it does. Simple as that. If you're trying to get rid of candida, you need to go dairy-free as well. Any fermented food, no good. Sorry. Anything with a sugar or fermented, you got to get rid of all that sort of stuff, unfortunately. So you really have to go just to basic meats. It's the only vegetables which I wouldn't actually recommend. All the green stuff and all that, probably zucchini is probably the only non-problematic things like that. But yeah, you don't want to feed the damn thing, and you want to hit it hard. That cleanse is really a good cleanse to use. And the other supplement, let me just remember the other supplement. There's another supplement. It helps with breaking down the biofilm. I'm trying to remember, where is it? That's it. This one here. This one's the other one. And I'll quickly share that. It's that one there. Wasn't appearing. Let me. The equivalence theory when it comes to inertial mass, so it's the second law of basically God Almighty, the guy back in England that came up with gravity. It's his second law, and it's basically, just for other people to know, inertial mass is basically a known, force against an unknown mass. And there's a principle called the equivalence principle between, sort of gravitational mass. So that is, a bigger object has much more gravitational attraction. And there is a theory about dark matter. So you can see string theory is unraveling. Dark matter is unraveling. This research is on 100 and I can't remember, 123 different galaxies, and they were looking at clustering or very on their own. And there's actually, like, as gravity, the sort of gravitational field comes like this and sort of drops down the further out something is. Okay, well, it goes the opposite direction when you look at certain galaxies where we're looking, but they were all concentrated and the other ones are pulling on each other. There was that interaction. And the nice thing about it is you've what they were able to view is to see those differences by looking at all these actual observation, not theorizing in an ivory tower, about dark matter and stuff like that. How we can stick something in there to sort of. So there is a view where maybe there isn't an equivalence. The equivalence principle is wrong in terms of inertial mass and gravitational mass. And that's what the observational staff of these 123. Now, obviously, it's not enough galaxies that we've looked at, but as far as I'm concerned, the 1 and the 0, when we look at science, here's a basically an observational, pretty much what we could call a paradox, something different than what the theory says. So pretty much, I think dark matter is on the out as far as I'm concerned, because this observational research is actually quite clearly showing real data from real actual reality. So I hope you enjoy, flappers. Anyway, let's move on. This is a nutritional channel and not a science one of physics or whatever. So let me find my spot. You lovely people are here for other reasons. Oh, there it is. Nope. Where am I? I've lost my spot. Ah, here it is. Yeah. Beyond was the next one. Get the D in you. Yes, definitely. The diff. Yes, nothing like that. Nothing like the D. Harry, you like a beautiful pink frame, like Bobby's perspective. Well, this is a standard thing. You can't actually pick your own. So this is what you get. You have to basically go for the paid option to get an upgrade, so you can actually set a different background or whatever. So if this is a standard thing, whether you like it or don't, that's it. It comes with a package, so to speak. G'day, Nurse Trouble. Good to see you here. Yes, I look cute. Thank you. Oops. And oops. Let me just move. It's a bit the only thing that it is a bit what do they call it? It's sort of a bit thickly. There's sort of the I like that it doesn't actually just stream away and go off on its own, like StreamYard does, but it has a few of its own thickly things, the way it works. But anyway, nothing can be perfect. One thing will actually affect other things, and it's just the way it is. Such is life. Oh, thank you. No comment. Let's move on. Oops, did I actually? Oops. Yep. And I actually went up accidentally. That's the thing. I'm so used to the to StreamYard, I'm going up. Good to hear, Richard. I wouldn't go that far. My old mates just call me an old fart just to be annoying, even though they look slightly older than me and they're younger than me. But anyway, I'll let them have their fun. But it motivates them to Harry is the Emperor with no clothes. Thanks. Thanks. Thank you. Oh, Blinky got a few laughs out of that. I eat, Jarlsberg by the ton load for my MK4. Yep. Yeah, that cheese is, I actually buy that cheese as well. So I get Brie, Jarlsberg from Norway. I also get, I'm trying to remember now, what's the Swiss cheese that I get? Can't remember it. Anyway, so I get a number of different cheeses from different parts. Yeah, for the K4, MK4, and some of the other menaquinone. So it's fairly good in that regard. It's good sauce. Dogs get aggressive when they start to starve. Yes. Are vegans so aggressive because they are nutrient deficient? Potentially. Erratic mind, erratic. If you don't get enough phospholipids, if you don't get enough taurine, you don't get enough choline, you don't get enough of these, especially if you've got certain genetic SNPs like I have, you can be far more prone to anger or uncontrollable behavior. It sort of probably explains my violent behavior when I was a youngster, a very young, and then when I went to Greece and started eating more animal foods, I tend to become a bit more, because I've got that pathway, the choline pathway, where I have to get it from the diet. I can't even convert it from methionine like a lot of people do. So, and then that to folate, which also I can't do. Yeah, so that's why I need liver and I need eggs in my diet. Yeah, I suspect it's probably, there's a lot of truth behind that aggression. I remember my own, yes, if I go back and think about times when I was eating more less good food, animal foods, I tended to be a bit more, I fly off the handle much easier, where I'm more cool and relaxed and chilled out nowadays. Even my friends comment about that. Hangry. Yes, exactly. Very true. Oh yeah, it's the combo is just lethal. Yeah, as we said, they're the new zombie army of lunatics. And growing, unfortunately. Have you noticed there's a few new commercials now on the YouTubia and a number of other social media where they're actually promoting, they have these animals, celebrating that there's all these fake meats now, so they are intensifying the propaganda. The propaganda is being intensified out there, unfortunately. So, it's going to become a much more hostile environment for us. Look, if you want most athletes for performance, they use taurine, but you don't need as much. So it all, you get a lot of endogenously produced. You basically, I always say to young people, are you drinking? Are you a drinker? If you're drinking, yes, supplement. If you're not, don't. You get enough from the meat. If you're doing a clean carnivore diet, you'll get enough from the meat. You'll produce enough endogenously, you'll be fine. But if you're, using alcohol, I mean, you're going to create fibrotic tissue in your liver. Taurine is great for breaking it down. So it is also for, if you're not eating species appropriate, to have your gallbladder work, your gallbladder work properly. Well, taurine can also help with bile synthesis and also with emulsification. So you don't get the stones, or this sort of you get while MK4 plays a role as well in biosynthesis. The emulsification, taurine, because it's a sulfur, actually has a better effect in that regard. So look, this is why it's usually most gallbladder issues usually emerge in middle age or older, not in young people, very rarely, unless they've been, really eating shit, really doing, sedentary eating, really shit, a lot of other factors as well. or high levels of estrogenic sort of compounds in their diet or environment can also cause that issue. So yeah, and taurine can help there, and choline can be the other part which helps methylate away a lot of the excess type estrogen, especially xenoestrogens. Yep. Anyway. Oops. Harry, do you think loose stools and skin issues are related? They can be sometimes, but in some other cases they're not. It depends. Loose stools can be for a number of factors, but usually they can. Why they can be related is because there's usually a gut microbiome issue. So that's, and it's sort of, if you've got one, you usually have other issues, but it doesn't necessarily mean that they are both causally the same, in that regard, but can be closely associated because of a whole lot of other factors that can actually affect both stool formation plus, So, I mean, stool formation could also be affected by gallstones and gallbladder issues and stuff like that. Now, that can also cause skin issues in some people. Other people, not. Depends. So there can be a lot of different factors. It's so complicated. So it can be related, but it also can be very poorly related, or not at all. So there can be other issues that can actually cause skin issues as well, both genetic or environmental and eating. So it can be quite difficult sometimes to determine. One thing that I do find is once you get your microbiome sorted, you get rid of the foods that cause leaky gut, you get a good level of the fat-soluble and B vitamins in your diet, and you use something like Ruteri to kill off the pathogens, to suppress them. You won't cure them, but you'll suppress them, giving your general gut microbiome a chance to come back. Now, there is a proviso in this, and the proviso is that if you don't have, basically have, let's say, your appendix anymore, where your gut microbiome is held and to be restored, there it can become a bit more complicated. There are a number of, problem is there's not enough, how can I put it? You'd probably have to use certain fermented foods to try and get, but you wouldn't get all the beneficial stuff. It's much more difficult to basically restore a proper gut microbiome without your appendix. It's not impossible, don't get me wrong. There's still going to be some vestiges of that potentially in your gut. It depends how many years you've been assaulting your body with glyphosate and antibiotics. So I'd have to have a detailed history of somebody to really be able to extrapolate from that. And sometimes even there, you're not 100%. It's better to basically go and give a stool sample and then get an actual genetic test. A genomics test on the stool to see what sort of bacterial strains, are there. So it's a sort of a genomics of the bacteria. They use different names for them, but yeah. So, yep, a lot of people do. It's well known that people do with taurine. I have to say, even myself, yeah, yep, definitely, even myself, yeah. If I go back, but then there's a lot of factors. But I know that taurine does help. Even there, it helps with so many things with it when it comes to the brain. So yeah. Yep, I do 3 grams. Alex does as well. There you go. Yeah. You can go right up to 10 grams, but that depends on, be 2 very deep sleep. You have to be very careful, especially, I don't think, Bjorn, you're on blood pressure meds, so you don't have to worry about that. But also at the same time, some people are prone, like my younger sister, to very low blood pressure. And I don't know your genetics. So you got to basically go slow as you increase. Any times you increase something, you go slow from 1, 2, 3 grams, over 1, 2, 3 weeks, and you slowly move up and taper yourself off then. So your body gets used to it and adjusts, because it does. Taurine has a big effect on the electrolytes and the fluids. So your intra and extracellular fluids are very much regulated by taurine. So that's another reason why your blood pressure and your general electrolyte management actually improves with taurine as well. And I think that's probably another feature why in older age people have more issues with some of these issues, due to probably less biosynthesis of taurine and all that. So that's another important factor. Yep. Anyway, let's move on. You can't hear me? What do you mean you can't hear me? Can you still hear me? Am I still? Oh, okay. That was earlier. Okay. Oh, that may have been when I took myself out and was, yeah, that's a different thing. Yep. That's probably what it was. Anyway. There are many places you can buy on Amazon. You can make sure it's pharmaceutical grade and pure taurine. No other fillers. Pure taurine. So it has to be 100% taurine. Yeah, I tend to take it later in the afternoon myself. It's because this window, sort of a 4 to 6 hour window of eating, or so it's not early in the morning that I take it. I usually take. I know some people take it earlier. Some people take it multiple times. Like if they're doing 4 grams, I take 2 in the morning and 2 in the evening, or people do all sorts of things. And I don't know whether it makes a difference, to be honest. If it works for you, Alex, good. I'm happy. There's a link from Pepnado on iHerb. Their taurine powder. And that was the sound. Yep. Okay, let me just go past all that. Must be all that taurine that he's taking. That was the science stuff that I actually put on earlier. Bad Harry has no sound to tell us why. Kitty, exactly. Kitty. Yeah, I know. It's sharing screens. It's. I actually said to, I couldn't actually play any of the music. I need to work it out, with the StreamYard, because I wasn't able to play any of the audio earlier today when that video that Bart had of that island, which was really annoying, because I need the audio to sort that out. So I'm not going to bother tonight, but I need to basically play it around, and I'll do probably a test next week sometime, and with this one, and make sure that I can that I don't affect the audio. So that's something to work out. Yeah, exactly. No. We're talking about inertial mass. The second, it's not thermodynamics. It's Newton's second law of inertial mass. God almighty, my brain today. So that's the one. And that's with the actual, with gravitational mass, that's described the ways, in particular, the way it's described by Newton, which is sort of similar to, it's just described differently by Einstein, but it's the measurement is sort of similar, is the same. Now, what these researchers that have done actual research are actually showing that there is a difference between inertial mass and gravitational mass. So they are not equivalents. So they've actually rejected the equivalence theory that has been, like the sacrosanct in physics for some time. And it's the reason why, because of the equivalence theory, why we came up with dark matter, because we couldn't explain, you can't have this different type of effect and not have additional extra mass around the outer part of a galaxy to basically maintain that structure and that rotational speed. So that was without things flunging out of the galaxy, But with this sort of differential in understanding, where we've actually been able to measure the different effects between the two, and determine there is a difference. It's not an equivalence. It's not the same. We're able to, from this 123 galaxies, we're able to come up with a theory that, well, there's actually an Israeli academic, I can't remember his name now, comes up, it's the Moron or whatever, I think it's called, theory that talks about this sort of relativistic difference between the gravitational mass and inertial mass. So yeah, I'm not, as I said, this isn't a physics thing, and I don't want to, the other people that are here are probably going, what the fuck's he talking about? So we'll move on. Apparently I'm being congratulated for receiving 100 messages today. Oh, how nice. Yes. Cross advertising, I call that. Only taurine, exactly. Probably is. The mass of taurine in this stream. Yeah, I know. How can you combine Candida with astrophysics? Yeah, I know. Yes. I had my cosmological moment. Yeah, it is actually nice. So do I. I actually even sprinkle a bit on my eggs. I put salt and pepper, and I put a bit of Ceylon cinnamon. I know. What can one say? So yes, definitely not a Puritan. I'm a slave, according to Svenich, not a Puritan. Found a good one on Amazon. Yes. Ah, yes, double trouble. And aggressive behavior is more likely to lead to finding food. Yes, in the course of vegans, basically they are in the trough 24/7. Oh, actually, no, 16 hours at least, until they pass out from a carb coma like Richard does. How fucking, and shit themselves like Richard does. God almighty, what a lifestyle the vegan lifestyle is. God almighty. Yeah, exactly. They're knocking themselves off. Yeah. Yes. Oh, yes, definitely. Yes, YouTubia, yes, they'll do that. Dr. Harry and Mr. Hyde. Yes, the old Hyde. Yes, he's under control now. He's definitely under control. That evil Hyde. He's still in there somewhere. He just needs a carb boost to come out. When I paste the vampire. Oh, yeah, I know the emojis. Yeah, it's what do you say? I mean, it's just God almighty. YouTube can be really. Yeah, I know they've so woke. God. Yes. Yes, our dear friends. Oops. I'm going to quickly move through those. That as well. You can do that, or you can supplement. Last question on Candida. Do you have a protocol or video I could look at in order to try to get? It is coming next month. I did promise it in February, so it is happening. There's going to be on histamines as well. There's going to be on a number of things. So it is coming, all that sort of gut stuff related. I know I've got the other gut one with the B vitamins, and NecroKitty's hounding me for that as well. So, yep, they are coming. Remember, I do have a day job, so it will happen next month. Those I am sort of prioritizing. Ah, yes, delicious. Yes, some people like different types of liver. Good to see. Different varied organ meats. That's good. Yeah, that can help as well. Also, activated charcoal as well. You got to be careful with bentonic and activated charcoal. They can have a bit of an effect. Yeah. I just noticed Bjorn talking about it. Yep, they also can have a bit of an effect in terms of, sort of constipating effect as well. So you got to be a bit careful with them, not to put a bit of too much strain. Because remember, there is a certain level that your liver is basically clearing out the toxins and pushing them through the bile, and then sort of that gets cleansed through and then gets cleared out, and you sort of combine a couple of hours later some activated charcoal to basically bind with that and take it out. So yeah, got to be a bit careful not to go too crazy on the activated or the clay. So just keep that in mind. It could cause some, gut motility issues. So just be careful with that. Don't go crazy. Why the Asian race is so much smarter on average compared with has more to do with their culture than anything else. There are a number of Asian populations, like in Mongolia and other areas, that are racially very close, but their performance is quite low. So absolutely nothing to do. Has to do more with their culture rather than their racial groups. So you can actually see a number of racial groups like Northeast Asians, and some of them have got much lower IQs and others have got much higher IQs. Again, culture, nothing to do with genetics. In Africa recently, IQs jumped dramatically with the introduction of mobile phones. At the end of the day, and when we're looking at IQ tests, you've got to be very careful. You can get a tribal person who has so much awareness of their environment, or an Inuit has got so much awareness of his environment in terms of the snow, the different characteristics of the snow. That is spatial intelligence. That is actually more important because that actually tells you how you can actually differentiate and analyze things. So there are a lot of the actual IQ tests I basically consider bullshit. The ones that are actually looking at, because if you don't have a knowledge of history or mathematics or stuff like that, that tells you nothing. The ones that actually are looking at shapes and things like that, and you have to analyze things, they're the ones that actually tell you more about the ability to critically analyze things. And when you do those sort of things, you find much less differences. So you've got to be very careful with that sort of stuff, because it's very much, a lot of the IQ tests are very much what I call culturally biased to populations that are technologically at a certain level or doing certain things or whatever. So yes, they're not, it's pretty much bullshit as far as I'm concerned when it comes to those things. That there is a difference between people, yes. There is a U-type curve. The majority of people are in that middle part, and there are outliers that are very intelligent and very dumb. That exists in all racial groups across the board. But the differences between the groups has a lot to do with culture and the importance they place on education from an early age, and the focus and all that, because that's what we're measuring when we're doing these IQ tests. But when you go and look at analytical side of things, you end up and exclude all the other stuff that's traditionally in an IQ test and just focus on, can this person perceive those differences in shapes or, how things come together and all that, that problem solving skills, those differences sort of start becoming less material between populations. So really important. And there you will notice, again, the same type U curve always exists. There's always been shamans and above average leaders and stuff like that. That's normal. No population is equal in capacity. Otherwise, we'd all be Einsteins. It's not the case. So, yeah, but there isn't really this sort of bullshit about racial groups. There's a lot of cultural, reasons for the differences between populations and all that. That's why you see basically kids that are taken out of Africa by rich, wealthy white families, and then they are basically taken to America and grow up with all the actual same level of equivalent of some privileged person, white person. They do very well and end up even the president of the United States. So that tells you something. I can take a child and throw them into, France, and they'll become a Frenchman. So it's a cultural thing. Or a child ends up being brought up by a wolf and is completely savage as, because that's the culture that they socialized in from a young age and behave like a wolf and all that and walk around like a wolf and all that. So we've seen that. So you got to be very careful with this sort of stuff. I know a lot of people, because of economic differences. I mean, once upon a time, certain countries were much more advanced in civilization, had the smartest people and all that, because they had the most wealth. They could afford to educate more of their population. So that doesn't mean that the other population doesn't have the potential. It just can't realize it because of their economic circumstances. It's like somebody who's an entrepreneur. An entrepreneur in Africa is going to sit on the side of the road selling you bananas. An entrepreneur in the United States is going to have much more possibilities because of the better education, the better infrastructure, everything that they're actually operating in an environment where they can achieve greater potential. So it's a complex discussion. You've got to be very careful not to jump on these narrow bandwagons that most people do. And that's primarily due to ignorance by most people, unfortunately. Oops. Just lost my spot. Where am I? This time I did it myself. It wasn't the actual thing. I clicked on the side and it actually went right down to the bottom. Too much rice and too little meat and dairy. Yeah, look, that can play. About the Asians. Unlikely. Yeah, it's a cultural thing. Yes. I was under the impression that the appendix was useless organ. Yes, according to the crackpot doctors out there. Yep, it is a useless organ, should be ripped out. You should be born and have it removed at birth. Alex goes, I agree. You'll agree to anything, Alex. God. Does that mean you'll agree to me on anything? Oops. I just got cleansed with the gastrum. Bad microbiome die-off. Yeah, that can happen. Yeah, I know. I've had one of those in the past. I know exactly what you went through. So, yes. Yeah, it's painful. I had to go through my own painful stuff. Yeah, it does help. It does help. Doo-doo-doo. Oh, actually, that didn't realise that had that option as well. Yeah, interesting. Now I lost my spot. I was playing around with some of the other options. Yes, essential oils. Yep, we've heard all that. How effective they are, I don't know. To be honest, I don't really know how effective they are. They seem to work for some people, but the ultimate thing is once you actually acidify your stomach enough, you've got a low pH. Usually and you got good, because remember the actual intestinal tract, most of the stuff comes through your mouth, and some of the bacteria and all that, and some of the actual candida growth can actually come through there as well. Not only it can grow right through you. One thing that when you've got good actual bile production, it will cleanse the actual small intestine, which is really important. So that plays a big role. So it's a bit more complicated in that way. Yep, that was Kitty saying that was earlier. Yep, okay. Yep, it was. Yeah, I think it was when I was playing around with that. Yep. Most essential oils are toxic, aldehydes aggressive. Yeah, they can be. That's true as well. So, yep. That is very true. So, and the quality out there is questionable. It's the reason why I don't promote any of the oils. Simple as that. I know I'd rather people, just crumble up oregano, like herb, and use that, much more effective without the aldehydes. And you're right. Yes. Very good point, Melina. I just forgot about it myself. But yeah, these things are very high in aldehydes. Oh, what's Fapnado saying? What is the word? What is this word? Porn. If you don't know that, you got major issues. Nice one, Blinky. You gotta love Blinky when he comes up with those sort of angles. Oops. As soon as I run out of dairy, I'll just start taking the Rotary pills and the anti-candida stuff and avoid all carbs. But for how long? Look, if you restore it takes a couple of months, let's be honest, to restore your gut microbiome to a much healthier state. Taurine is really important because over those 3 months, you make sure that your gallbladder is actually working properly. Very important, because that's part of it as well. That could be affected. In many cases, I find that most people have got low stomach acid, problems with their gallbladder, even sludge. It may not be gallstones, so they may not feel something, but they may just feel that, it's just not, they don't feel like, they feel a bit bloaty, a bit, all these sort of funny symptoms. Yeah, it usually is due to sludge. Sometimes things are not broken down properly, and that's also because the bile ducts run through the pancreas and can interfere, if there's sludge, can interfere with the proteolytic enzymes or the enzymes that are required to break down stuff that are coming out of the actual pancreas. So, and taurine actually helps with all organs in terms of their fibrotic tissue or any damage. So it's really important. Taurine is so important. And there is where there's a leeway. How much do I take? Well, I always say, how many issues do you have? So, and that's why it's usually between 3 and 6. Usually if there's a number of underlying issues, I usually get people to move up towards 6 for a couple of months and then taper back down to 3. If they're in their older age bracket, if they're in the younger, they sort of can get off it. Because they're probably getting enough from the animal foods and enough they're producing endogenously at a younger age. So, yes. Yes, he's having fun with Sky. That bad. God. They're giving you a hard time. I don't blame you. I think he knows what he's missing. Oh, God, here's Blinky, the troll. Oh, God. Fibber Sky is way more digging than Bart's Discord. Plus, I have 0 power there and almost never use it. You would like it. They're better than Bart's. Oh, is he being given a hard time at Bart's, is he? Okay. Be nice, you guys. Bloody hell, we're all carnivores. Oh, God. Young'uns in there. Okay. It's a feral with the young ones. She has a special crowd. I bet. It changed now. Oh, Blinky turned up and changed it. Oh, there goes the neighborhood, or there goes the Discord. Yes, yes. Oh, God. Yes, nurse, T1 and T2, and yeah, all your other trolls under the sun. No means no. Well, you've lost. Something random is probably a complex question, but why do you think some people get cancer and others don't? I would say there's a bit of genetics predisposition. That genetics don't predispose you, don't guarantee you're going to get cancer, but predisposition means that you've got certain pathways that potentially put you at risk. Now, if you take a look at the literature, you will find shitloads of information on vitamin D. I think it's a poor diet that actually is creating a lot of senescent cells. And then there are a number of, there's one enzyme in particular which basically coats and gets activated heavily, which is CD47. It's something that not many people are aware of, but it actually is upregulated by cancer cells and tends to be also together with some other factors like the CD38, tends to increase with senescence. So when there are more senescent cells, that means damaged, problematic cells. So it's a combination of exposures, diet, and all that, and then genetic vulnerabilities. So, and it will hit people in different places, in different ways in that regard. There's also a mitochondrial side as well, where mitochondrial damage is, increased to a certain level where your body can't actually produce sufficient energy to run a number of cellular processes, and then things start, the body starts losing control of certain cells, and those cells then start behaving like, on their own for their own survival. So we still don't understand a lot of these things, but there is definitely certain, if you're eating a poor, sad diet, these components tend to upregulate these enzymes, these enzymatic pathways, and these sort of things that get amplified in the genetics. So where an insulin, again, these growth factors. So certain genes that are associated very strongly with cancer are very much tend to be upregulated or epigenetically activated, in a sense, when there is cancer around. Sorry, when there's too much insulin around. Now, we don't really know whether some of these methods are protective in nature. I know CD38 definitely seems to be protective, which is what I've understood recently about CD38 when it comes to senescent cells. CD47, that one is still, we're not clear on that one, whether it's a protective mechanism or it's really something that it does tend to be regulated down by vitamin D, seems to have an effect on it. So I've always come back that some of the some of these issues in some of these pathways that actually tend to emerge tend to basically be more pronounced in people with which are vitamin D deficient. Now, I'm not saying vitamin D deficiency is the only thing, but it's probably a factor in there. When it comes to cancer, it's like very complicated, causal. You know, it's a number of things that are actually at play. So, yeah, and that's, you know, both susceptibilities, exposures, and that's why there are going to be differences. That's why you see these sort of differences between people as well. It's quite complex in that regard. Obviously, just because you see somebody who's skinny and they get cancer doesn't mean they could be a tofu. That means thin on the outside, fat on the inside. So they may have severe insulin resistance, severe levels of dyslipidemia, severe sort of rates of, you know, chronic inflammation and all that. Just because they look okay from the outside, you've got to be very careful with these sort of things in that regard. Actually, you look at some of the more obese, fatter people, they tend to get diabetic and all this, and it's only at very late stage do we actually see cancer in those populations. And so why? Because again, they've got more fat tissue. They can actually take up a lot of this extra fat and just grow more, or, you know, and be fat but healthy until they exceed their level. And then things start going to shit. So there can be a lot of factors. Very much the diet is involved. That's quite clear. Growth factors, what we're doing to ourselves is definitely part. Some of the sort of foods that we eat and all that are pushing up a lot of oxidative stress and stuff like that. So that's also affecting our cellular function and the cellular state, that you know, the quality of that cellular material in our bodies, how much it ages, how much it degrades, how much it's damaged, and all that sort of stuff, the capacity of our bodies to deal with it. So it's very hard just looking at somebody from the outside and just making, oh, that guy seems quite young, quite healthy, you know, why is he getting cancer? Well, you don't know what's happening inside. If there's a tofu situation, highly insulin resistant, highly inflamed and all that, there you go, not enough fat storage. May look thin, but you can't put it away. You're going to be vulnerable to the effects. So, yes, there's plenty of healthy fat people. Oh, I clicked on the wrong thing. Ah, fuck. Anyway, yes. Don't be nice. Be nice. Blinky, you're being evil, evil Blinky. Actually, the window is... I'm just going to go and get some water. Give me a sec, because my throat's starting to get a bit cramped. And sit properly. Flynn effects would apply to in IQ. Smaller, not smarter, Harry. You mean Asians? Yes, I'm with you. Run the IQ test. IQ tests, those personality tests, crock as vegans. Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, I mean, their size, not their intellect. Haha. Yep. Gotcha. Gatekeeper, random number generator. Yeah, exactly. Poor diet. Potting just cats. Yeah. Yeah, definitely. That is the vegan thing. It's brain shrinkage. Fuck no. Just need to get a bit more hydration. I've been talking all day, so it's sort of, I'm getting to the stage where my sort of throat is starting to get a bit. Anyway, so what you do? Schrodinger's cat, you mean? The one that was in the box. Is it alive or dead? Yes. Genetic components of personal ability to use fat energy makes glucose via. Or is there a genetic component to a person's ability to use fat for energy and make glucose via gluconeogenesis? There's really good genetics, components for all that. We all have the capacity. It sort of varies between people slightly. It's something that I do want to do a video on fat metabolism and glucose metabolism in regards to different groups, in particular sort of the slight differences between like the Chinese and some other populations, and populations that had for a prolonged period of time a very high sugar-based diet or carbohydrate-based diet. There are some genetic differences that have emerged within those population groups. That's sort of true in that regard. Just notice how bloody red my nose is. I think how long? I've got another bloody month to go on that experiment. Fuck. Yeah, I'm looking forward to going back to my retinol and my higher retinol and higher things like K2, because I'm not doing K2 at the moment. I'm not doing fucking retinol, and I'm not doing niacin. And while I'm getting whatever I'm getting just from the standard diet, I do notice that my tolerance out in the sun isn't as good as it used to be when I was sort of supplementing a bit. Those things. So interesting. Anyway. Now, I'm not going to do the thing that some of the African populations do when they kill an animal. First of all, their skin's darker, so they are better protected. And on top of that, they actually grab a lot of stuff and they actually lather themselves, like the Samburu people, with blood of the animal, which is sort of like a sunscreen type thing. So I need to get, I've got another month on that experiment. I want to see. It's probably not the best thing for my skin, let's put it that way, because I'm actually inducing more damage, UV damage. But I need to basically do that and then reverse it and actually prove to myself exactly the sort of trying to work out the dosages, so to speak. I think I've got it right in my head, but I need to apply it and see, does it actually work in that way? Yeah, I know I do some weird things. Shit happens. That's me. Anyway, to the note, does anyone else feel like their body gets warmer when dry fasting? Yes, it does. It does. it's not very. I know. Look, animal foods or more. This is my hypothesis on it. I know it may sound wacko, but this is my hypothesis. When you fast, you're clearing out organelles. Okay, you're clearing out old proteins and stuff like that. So the proteins come out into the bloodstream. That actually stops autophagy, and then until they get used. What I think a dry fast does is it accelerates that whole process. So it actually clears out, like you get what usually say the effects of 1 day of dry fasting is like the equivalent of 3 days of regular. And I think what's happening there is that you're actually getting a stronger, or these, let's say 3 days water fast, you're getting this sort of autophagy, where some nutrients are coming out. What I think is happening when you do a dry fast is you get shitloads more protein or organelles coming into the bloodstream. Then your autophagy drops very rapidly. And then when that gets pushed into the tissue, then it goes up again. So I think dry fasting is actually and so it's like having more protein. What does protein do? It makes you warmer. It increases your heat. And I think that the pool of turnover of bad organelles is accelerated 3 times, or well, maybe 2 something or whatever, you know what I mean, compared to a water fast. And I think that's a factor in itself, that you're actually getting more of this through these bigger movements of anabolism of that sort of stuff coming in. Maybe I'm wrong. Who knows? That's just a speculation on my side. It's pure speculation in combination with, because you're still getting fluids. You still can get metabolic water from, so I don't think it's a hydration issue. I think it's basically really that there's more material that's coming out from that autophagic process that's being accelerated, and that material is basically being utilized by the body, and that higher protein content is probably, having that effect potentially. I don't know. Maybe I'm just talking shit. Exactly. One can only have that comment. Yes, very appropriate for me. Harry, here in Spain, I ate a lot of their cured ham, Serrano. Yep, I've heard of it. I've actually even tried it. And their chorizo, I've tried that salami as well. From the nutrient point of view, are they okay? Yeah, fine. Yeah, they cured traditionally with salt cured stuff, perfect. Traditional stuff that's cured in that way. Greece has a lot of, and Italy has a lot of cured meats, which are traditionally done. Most of Europe does. It's a lot of the English-speaking country that have really bastardized their cured stuff, unfortunately. There is some cured stuff in Tasmania, some smoked stuff that I get, and cured stuff, which is still done in the traditional way, just salt, nothing else. So, oops, clicked on the wrong one. Lucky man. Oh, yes, exactly. Very lucky. And I suspect the price is much better than what I have to pay in Tasmania for, I would say so. I'm taking taurine, but I was underdosing. Maybe. Yes. Always be very careful to increase by smaller increments, because for the simple reason of the blood pressure issues. So you want it to adjust slowly, and also with the fluids, because it does regulate them. So just be a bit on the careful side. Yes. Mongolia is probably one of the few countries in Asia that upholds animal-based diet. Yes, it does. That's true. And dairy. It's basically meat and dairy. Their animal-based diet is meat and dairy primarily. Very much similar to the Maasai, but different. It's horse-based dairy. And the horse-based dairy tends to have far more lactose in it as well, far more. Where, for instance, milk as like lactose persistency gene and humans, you can get if you're eating a dairy-based diet plus with some meat, you can support about about 2.5 children. It's the reason why the Indo-Europeans were able to have a surplus, even though they were a tribal population, and explode and conquer all these kibble-based cultures. It's a hypothesis, but it's a valid hypothesis where the children that don't have the lactose persistent gene can only get about half that energy. So you can only support about half those kids. So you end up with a smaller tribal group in terms of numbers. Now, I know that you can probably support nearly 3 or close to with horse, far more. It's basically because of the higher, the amount of calories that you can actually get in horse. It's probably one reason why Jenkins Khan, could actually build up large nomadic tribes, soldiers, because they basically, the advantage is, and again, the same thing with the Indo-Europeans. Again, you're both your warrior and a shepherd, so yes, very easy to do both roles. Oops. Yes, yep. Very lucky. Could you talk about metabolic water a little? How does the body extract it from fat cells during a dry fast? Well, what the body does is, you've probably heard me saying, when you go through the Krebs cycle and glycolysis, there's all these enzymatic pathways. They're called dehydrogenase. What they do is they strip off hydrogens. And basically that then combines with oxygen and creates metabolic water. Voila. And if there's any deuteriums in there, it usually strips them off and tries to get rid of them and replaces them in. And as long as there's a certain threshold that if your average is out to less than 100, around about the 130 parts per million, then your body has the rate of depletion where, as it's going through the Krebs cycle and all that, and it's dehydrogenating and tearing these, because remember, you basically, the carbon is what you will basically, even through pyruvate, it's what you'll basically oxidize. And that metabolic water then will create the substrate for basically the protons that will eventually get pushed through and into the inner mitochondrial layer to create a protein gradients to create more energy through ATP, because that's where you get most energy produced via the electron chain in those folds throughout if you look at mitochondria, all those folds, that's where the electron chains are. And the more of those you've got, the more energy. When you're younger, the more you lose because of high deuterium. So the quality of the water, so to speak. So fat will actually increase the amount of, it's just got more, it can furnish far more metabolic water, and it's cleaner. So, fucking hell. My throat's blood. So basically, because of the deuterium content, which is different, how many parts per million, there's only so many enzymatic steps to remove some of the deuterium, okay? To keep it very simple for everyone. The actual process is that if you've got more deuterium in a food, obviously you can only provide to the matrix, which is the inner side, where the folds are, that inner part, where, basically where the Krebs cycle is, only there, that inner part is where you can actually create that sort of water. Now, the type of water that will end up is, if it's not contaminated with deuterium, when you've basically got a lot of sugar, you only can extract, in terms of metabolic water, about 44%. From fat, you can actually extract 1.5, far more. 1 liter will give you 1.5 liters. 1.1 liters. 1 liter of, let's say, we're talking about 1,000 grams now of sugar, will give you basically, rather than it'll give you about 440, mils of metabolic water. So you dehydrate, basically. When you're actually using sugar, you end up with less metabolic water. So because you have to get rid of more of that. The less water you have, the less of this sort of transistor effect you can create, So it's really important inside the mitochondria. I'm going to do a video later on in the year to explain really and show you exactly and explain how it actually happens, because it's very hard to visualize it. But the thing that you have to understand is, fat hydrates. So 1 gram will give you 10% more than originally you took in. So it will hydrate, and sugar will dehydrate. So when you extract more metabolic water, and it has nothing to do whether you're doing a fast or whatever, the moment your body is utilizing long chain fats, you will generate more metabolic water. The more sugar you use, the less metabolic water you'll produce, and that's what causes dehydration. And that's pretty much in a nutshell. Fasting is like being on keto. Fasting is like being fat adapted. You basically, the difference is, rather than putting it down your throat, you're taking it off your body, but it's the same stuff. The stored fat you have is again is low deuterium, like all the fat that you eat from animals. So no difference in that regard. So those fats will be low in deuterium, and they will basically furnish you with more metabolic water. Simple as that, So just think in those terms. It's not the fast, it's the water, whether it's coming from the fat cells or it's coming on from the fat that you're eating when you're not fasting. So, and yeah, it has to do with the amount of enzymatic pathways and how much they can remove. And that's the thing. If they have to basically deal with more deuterium isotopes, it means that they basically have to remove and get rid of that, which basically means is these pathways are more involved in stripping away this deleterious stuff. And for the mitochondria, that is, not for other tissue can use deuterium, but for the mitochondria, so they can function, so they don't get damaged, their nanomotors don't get damaged. So yeah, so pretty much it really depends on, so it's not fasted related, it's what you're eating or getting from your fat cells, which is what's producing that sort of stuff. Anyway, it also has an effect on, light has an effect on it as well, but that's another kettle of fish altogether for another day. And a future video. Now, where was I? Here I was. Oh, Blinky's right after. Oh. A troll's paradise. Oh, is that what it is? Is that the Discord that Fat Bernardo was avoiding? I don't blame him, poor bastard. You guys give him too much of a hard time. Is a cancer rant supposed to be short or long? Oh, well, you know me. I mean, what do you ask these things, Richard? What's wrong with you, mate? Harry will rant as long as he likes, that's basically it, you know. Yes. And Harry, what are any thoughts on why people get Parkinson's and ALS? Species inappropriate diets, and they've got genetic susceptibilities. Actually, taurine seems to be very much involved in Parkinson's. So a lot of the studies point to taurine insufficiency, and there are some genetics to point to that some of these people actually produce less endogenous taurine, as in terms of biosynthesis. There are variations between different people with genetics. So I would say if you've got any people in your family that have got Parkinson's disease, get them on fucking taurine. That also phospholipids. So species appropriate diet should include eggs, very important, choline, phospholipids from the eggs and stuff like that, really important for all these ailments, ALS and all that. With ALS, there's also a vitamin D component as well. Less for Parkinson's, but for ALS, definitely. So like MS, there's a vitamin D component for that as well, and B vitamins, but also, and the fat-soluble vitamins, but it's years. If I swallow my tooth fillings and I have concerns with heavy metal exposure. Fuck me. That was heavy metals. Selenide. Remember selenium? Selenium is don't go too high on the toxic level. Try to keep it. I would definitely push it up from all food sources, and then maybe a bit of supplementation up to 400 micrograms, because it'll push up glutathione, and it also binds metals, heavy metals, and actually as a selenide, and it will remove them. That's one thing. Other things like activated charcoal and certain clays also help bind those out, but those ones work synergistically with the bile salts. So if you've got a gallbladder issue, that can be a problem in getting rid of heavy metals as well. So it's a problem. Also, taurine can help protect the liver against these sort of things, and other organs, really important. So if you've got heavy metal exposure, go up to 6 grams of taurine, and also go up on taurine as well. Sorry, choline as well. Choline is depending, you're probably standard, I'd say about 1 gram of supplementation if you're eating a number of other foods that have got choline in them. Otherwise, go up 2 grams. The other thing that I would also throw in there is alpha lipoic acid, which has the ability to refresh. Remember, it goes around and is a master electron donor. So if you've got metals causing all sorts of problems in oxidation and all the other issues in the body, you need an electron donor to basically try to deal with all this sort of stuff as well, that potentially could be at risk, creating problems anyway. Yes. And I've actually got, remember the one that I did on the fish about mercury? Go and check that. That talks about the selenide stuff and all that. So if you really want to find out more about heavy metal and removal and stuff like that, and the importance of selenium, not only as selenide, but also in terms of the production of glutathione. Anyway. Especially pollution or chemicals would be a factor as well. It's multifactorial problem, sure. Yep. Yeah, look, chemicals, radiation, all sorts of things can actually also cause cancer as well. That's true. That's other factors. Yeah, there are a lot of factors, and some people are more susceptible than others due to certain genetics as well, to chemicals. So somebody has a certain the same sort of chemical exposure, it can have slightly different deleterious effects on it, on one person against another who's got a better detox capacity. So if somebody's got a poor detox capacity, like the enzyme, the cytochrome P450 enzyme, it's, you know, it depends. There is your average, then slightly higher, and then really high. Mine is sort of somewhere in between the, because there's a number of SNPs genetics, somewhere between the slightly higher and the really higher, which is the longevity one. So I have some of the longevity stuff, which means that I can detox much better. So not everybody does. So that's why some people, exposure affects them far worse than others. It's just, yeah, it's the unfortunate thing. Yes, damn genetics. Oops. Oh, come on. My mum was 500 pounds. Shit. She died of breast cancer back in 2001. I'm always interested in what helps people like that. I have a bunch in my family. Yep. Look, if you're pushing up growth pathways, being overweight, yeah, it's the association between cancer and obesity, morbid obesity and all that is extremely strong in that regard. So yeah, it's something that, yeah, people need to deal with it in that regard. So yeah, very much. I would tend to put people like that on a steak-only diet, and even lean steak, not a problem, because basically I wouldn't put them on dairy, I wouldn't put them on anything, just basically on a, you know, they've got plenty of energy on board, shitloads of energy. They don't need energy, they need to burn off the energy. So lean, because you want to basically give them enough protein to basically encourage more muscular development. Yes, and the satiety effect of protein as well. Anyway, but initially you do put them on a slightly higher fat, so you can get them into ketotic state, and then you tape back so they can actually get more from their body. Is the trick, so you can push up the metabolism, because their metabolism would have been very sluggish. So you need a protein, fat, you know, like a butter and shitloads and all that, push up the metabolism, and then taper off the fats in order to basically lean them out so they can actually burn off their own. Oh, yes. G'day, Sam. Good to see you. Since you just mentioned insulin and leptin resistance people, anything to curb carb, sugar dependency beside ketones? You mean addictions in a sense? I think when it comes to the macros, I find that the thing that actually blunts hunger the most is protein. That's what I find. Protein really blunts. If I have a very protein heavy meal, I'm completely uninterested in food. I find, and if I've had like excessive amounts of steak, and then the next couple of days I'm just completely off food, you know, nearly. So yeah, so that can help as well. And as long as you're not engaging the Randall cycle, insulin will come down, and as insulin comes down, basically you will basically start burning oxidizing fat. As a consequence of that, your leptin signaling will improve as well. So yeah, But it's you have to push yourself and commit yourself to basically curbing the sugar demons. And I don't believe in sugar alcohols, all this sort of stuff. These snacks and cheats and all the sort of keto bars and carnival bars and whatever you want to come up with. All these sort of things tend to, how can I put it? They're not even a crutch. They're a psychological crutch, but they are deleterious in the way that they don't allow you to get out of that physiological state. You really need to be eating real food to basically get the body to basically normalize itself. The way I actually try to encourage people is to initially have quite a lot of protein, like a week of shitloads of fatty meat, like really a lot of fat and stuff like that. Lift up their metabolism, try and actually get their body more used to burning, oxidizing fat with no sugar, and fulfill where they feel satiated, because these people have got a big appetite. And then at that stage, once, sometimes it can take 2 weeks, sometimes 3. And then after that, do a 72-hour fast right after that. Water fast, because it's much difficult to do a dry fast for a lot of people, with a lot of salt and stuff like that, to make sure you're keeping your electrolytes in and all that sort of stuff. And then basically, the next, taper back right after the fast, when you sort of get into a bone broth and then a bit of meat with a bit of fat, sort of taper that down. Then the next week, do another bit of a fast there, a couple of days, 48 hour, and then get to the habit of doing at least once a week, 24 hours, like I do. And what you will do as you're doing these steps, you're starting to taper down your fat intake in order to basically utilize more from your body in that regard. So it's all a matter of sort of adjusting yourself, sort of building up some habits. That's the sort of thing, is acquiring certain habits and making sure certain things are eliminated from your house. Simple as that. There are things in there that are going to basically potentially, get you off your goals. Get rid of them. So I know it's hard if you've got kids and stuff like that, or a partner that basically has a different opinion of the lifestyle that they want to follow. That can be hard, and that's really, you have to negotiate all that and work arrangements. Maybe actually have a separate fridge for yourself, so and you restrict yourself to that fridge, so you don't open the other one at all. So you get one of those small bar fridges where you can put your stuff in. The other stuff in the deep fridge isn't a problem, but as long as you don't venture into the other one, you can avoid potentially opening yourself up to, those sort of, urges to grab something inappropriate. So yeah, it's a hard thing in that regard, but unless you deal with the sugar demons, a lot of this signaling, insulin, leptin signaling, just won't settle down. Sugar is really bad. When glucose isn't a problem, glucose does not cause, the leptin resistance. That comes from sugar. And what I'm talking about, fructose to be in particular. So it's really that fructose is what deranges a lot of these processes in our bodies, so that's the problem. So the things like refined sugars, honey, all that sort of stuff needs to be agave. Why would you even touch that shit? Maple syrup and all that needs to be basically in the rubbish, never in your home, if you're trying to basically sort out leptin resistance. And when it comes to insulin resistance, it's really not engaging the Randall cycle. Basically, not eating a whole lot of fat and sugar together. So you need to manage your life in that sense. And you need to take responsibility. You're an adult. I don't know whether it's for you or someone else. If it's for someone else, then they need to take some level of responsibility. It's just the way it is. What's Blinky got for me? Better share that. Otherwise, Blinky will be upset with me. Oops, better move that. Taurinator. I'm a Taurinator. I'll be basically back. Thanks, Blinky. Oh, good point. It's actually 8 o'clock. I better put the other... Just shut my eyes. Whack on the Roy glasses, mate. The Roy glasses. Anyway, we will get a little... See, I have to keep it over here, unfortunately, on the other screen, because, widescreen, because it actually pushes the chat below, which is quite annoying for me. I can't actually force it together. I've tried to. Let me just try. Nah, pushed it down again. So where's the actual... Nah. So the chat's there. How far can I put? Nah, it goes away. Damn. So it's only there. That's how far I can actually put it. So I can very narrow band. Shit. God, that's narrow. Can hardly bloody see it that way. Oh well. Shit happens. Oh, that's not going to work. Oh, for fuck's sake. Oh, bugger it. I'll have to keep it on the other one. Oh, damn technology. Makes it difficult. God. That's a good one, actually. That's a good one, Blinky. Nice one, mate. Oops. Okay. Yes, there's a lot of stuff out there about, but as I said, selenide, if you check that mercury one that I did about fish and all that, it's quite clear, the research on selenide, how it actually binds mercury and removes it. So that's quite clear. All the other stuff activated, the charcoal, all that, there's anecdotal stuff that it does, but there's no mechanistic studies that actually prove it. But with selenide, we definitely know it does. So, because at the end of the day, heavy metals and all that, it's the liver that detoxes the stuff. Your kidneys and liver and your lungs are the main ways things get out. Either you breathe them out, or you piss them out, or you get rid of them via the bile and excrete them out through the feces. So all the other sort of stuff that people talk about is a lot of it, this compound or that compound. I go, Well, show me the mechanism. Show me the study that demonstrates mechanism. There's nothing out there. So, yeah. And it makes sense because we would have always been exposed to certain things in the environment. So, these detoxifying pathways through the liver, they require taurine, they require sulfur amino acids. Even basically, like oxalates, you need sulfur to basically get rid of it, to bind it and get rid of it, to break down oxalate. So sulfur is very important. So, and the methionine, taurine, all these things are sulfur amino acids, so yeah, a lot of the other stuff is just conjecture on people's sides and a lot of, naturopathic bullshit without any studies or any research to back it up. So I'm not saying that it doesn't take some out potentially and bind it. Yep. Does it do it efficiently? Probably not. Don't know. We've got very limited research. There's only sort of association or rather than any mechanism, unfortunately. So, but I know with selenite, there is proven mechanism. So I'll go with the proven stuff rather than speculation. Watched Jason Fung on Ken Berry's channel about his new book, Cancer Code. He talks about the genes and the insulin a lot. Yeah, he's probably right about a lot of that. I haven't seen it. I should go away and see it and check it out. But my view on cancer is that the moment, for a whole lot of reasons, which has to do with insulin, with too much deuterium damaging the electron chains. And when you actually get reduced amount of the ability to undertake oxidative phosphorylation, then you notice that the cells revert to this primitive program. Cancer is just a primitive program for the cells to survive. That means they elongate the DNA with these long chain fats of 22 carbons to protect them, and they promote a lot of the mechanisms to promote glycolytic pathways and using and generating also a lot of lactate and all that to basically produce through glycolysis a lot of energy that way. Well, a very little energy, but by ramping up those whole mechanisms. And that's why it does very well on sugar and these growth pathways. High insulin usually is. I see high insulin as a marker of dysregulation of that you're actually eating inappropriate foods that are causing this dysregulation, and that higher level of deuterium and all the other things that are going in there damaging a lot of these mechanisms. They're not working properly, and then it is opening up your body to senescence, more damaged cells, and those cells are more vulnerable to going rogue. So, but at the same time, there are mechanisms that can control that, like CD38 is a mechanism to prevent. So it keeps it in like a zombie state rather than going cancerous. So that's why you need to fix senescence rather than actually suppress CD38, which is what I thought before, and that was wrong. And a lot of people in the longevity sort of sphere actually believe in suppressing CD38. I don't anymore, because I realize there are risks involved with doing that. Yeah, I will check it out and find out. Thanks to Angel. And oops. Okay, just stay there. My sister is harassing me to talk a COVID vaccine because she thinks my leaky gut will make me weak to COVID somehow. Confused and still refuse to take it. You're basically getting it straight into the bloodstream. You're not getting it via orally. So why would leaky gut have anything to do with affecting it? Nope. Absolutely nothing. Usually, as I said, some people that have got leaky gut and autoimmune issues and stuff like that, those people are more vulnerable to worse autoimmune, especially from the mRNA versions, because we've already seen they've been used in cancer research similar ways, these mRNA ones. That's one risk. The other risk is cytokine storm. So remember, the virus isn't the thing that kills you. Yes, it weakens your body. Yes, it causes some problems. But the ultimate thing that kills you is the cytokine storm that comes after. So that's what's actually killing you. And the nice thing about, vitamin D is that it actually regulates the immune system, so it prevents that from happening. So even potentially these sort of vaccines like the mRNA may not be a problem for somebody that's got a good vitamin D status in that regard. But I would prefer taking the AstraZeneca one, which is less problematic in that regard. But that's me. At some point, it's going to become very hard not to take something, because it's going to be very hard to basically live a normal life without. I think the way our society is going, they're going to be, employers are going to say, well, if you want to work with, for me, you have to basically take it. If you want to travel, you have to take it. So, yeah, I'm not happy about it in that regard, but what can you do? That's the real world that we live in. Yeah. So keep your vitamin D levels up, and you'll have less side effects and less problems. That's my answer to that. Anyway, I just wish we had better healthcare reform in how we treat cancer. Now nowhere today. Yeah, look, the problem is it's not the better healthcare. Probably need better healthcare for everything. The whole system is really, the way it operates, it's really just drug pushers. I think the biggest issue is when it comes to cancer in particular, is I think we just don't understand the disease properly. That's the problem. The problem is that we have a wrong understanding of cancer. And unless we get off that paradigm, we're going to be chasing our tail. Remember what I said once, those who are more regulars and know me quite well. In Europe, there is a deuterium depleted water called DDW 25, and it's a veterinary supplement of metabolic water, low deuterium metabolic water, as a cancer therapy for dogs, for animals, and it works. Once you basically lower the metabolic, you lower the deuterium, and you allow oxidative phosphorylation to re-establish itself, what happens is oncogenes eventually will downregulate. Those long-chain fats will untangle themselves around the nucleus, and pretty much basically you'll be back to business as usual. Yes, there'll be some damage to the DNA, and so the cell will be senescent in the way it actually operates, but it won't be cancerous again. It'll actually revert back to a senescent cell under control because it's producing enough energy in that way. And that's what they've noticed in the dogs. So really it's you're damaging the mitochondria and forcing these old programs to be put into action. And I only know that the only things that, sugar, seed oils, they're the things that are very high in deuterium. that damage the nanomotors, where fat isn't. So I can only say, being on a species-appropriate diet, and you have a lot of anecdotes out there of people going keto and doing a high fat ketogenic diet and have reversed their cancer. They haven't eliminated it. You've still got the senescent damaged cells there, which with fasting and other approaches you can get rid of over time, and better nutrition and turnover and get new stem cell activation through exercise and doing, better lifestyle. But ultimately, cancer is not going to be solved with poisoning somebody with radiation. So, yeah, it's just... And it doesn't matter how much money you throw to that system. It's a failed system, pretty much. Anyway, I think the filling would be relatively stable, minimal. It depends. Some people can detox mercury better than others. It's mixed bag in that regard. Sounds good. I hope so. Didn't experience neuro issues. Yep. Yeah, look, some people have better detox capacities and they don't. Oh. Well, that took a bit of effort to hit the like button. Yes. Thanks, Alex. That took a bit of effort and time and all that. Actually, it looks better in the actual, like in the chat box compared to there, because it's sort of pulled apart. Yes, but there's no way of actually controlling that. Yes. Out of my ear. Yes. How are you? Up syndrome. Could you talk about mechanism behind food coma? A lot of sugar. Plenty of sugar, shitloads of sugar. And you fall into like Richard, vegan gains, you fall into a food coma and you basically shit yourself. It's basically hypoglycemia. That's what it is. It's when you're so dependent on sugar, your body, that basically, and your insulin is so high, your insulin resistance, that, if you're not continually eating, and eventually what happens is you induce so much insulin resistance that you actually end up, even though you're putting so much sugar and fat, it can't get into the cells because of the Randall cycle. So he must be severely insulin resistant. We're not talking about just mild insulin resistance, but severe insulin resistance. I could not imagine what is happening inside his body. That means the amount of senescence and damage and sort of glycating factors and damage to his proteins inside, must be horrendous. This guy is heading directly to heart attack or whatever. That is somebody that ends up in a coma. They're eating so much fat and sugar together. They're engaging the Randall cycle. They're literally starving their cells of energy. That's the mechanism. It's an extreme Randall cycle activation. So, yeah, basically. Where if you were to just consume a lot of sugar, the insulin to glucagon would be much lower because you're not activating the Randall cycle. Yes, you're still pushing insulin higher than you would on an animal-based diet, but not to that extreme level when you combine sugar and fat. When you're eating donuts and that's, it's basically the worst thing you can do. It's just full of fat and sugar. And pretty much you engage the Randall cycle to a severe level when you consume so much. There is so much energy in the system floating around that the activation of the Randall cycle is at a very high level for a very long period of time. And when you're depriving your cells for a very long period of time, energy, as a protective mechanism, your body drops you into a coma state. So that's what's happening. You can imagine what's happening inside. That boy's very unhealthy, believe me. Yes, definitely. Good one, Alex. Yeah, if you're going to take those sort of stuff out, you need really proper people that know what they're doing. That's true. Oops. Not calories, the quantity. Nothing to do with calories. It's the quantity. So 1 gram of fat, 1 gram will produce 1.1 mils of metabolic water. 1 gram of sugar will produce 0.44 mils of water. So you're basically only getting, the equivalent of 44%, where you're actually getting 110% in a sense, if you sort of think in percentages terms to make it much easier. Now, there's a whole lot of reasons why you get more out of less, in a sense, from fat. It's just the way the hydrogens are arranged and all that, the amount that you end up with more. It's a strange arrangement, but anyway. And because remember, you've got oxygen that's coming in, that's combining, blah blah blah. Anyway, so that's for a video another time. Yep. Look, your body actually detoxes, these sort of things. Now, how fast and how much damage it causes and all that depends on a lot of things, a lot of factors. Oops. Oops. Why did I hit that twice? God. I'm trying to hit the bottom one and I hit the top one. That because they're very large and they are like in StreamYard, it's much smaller. Yep, so let's move on from all the teeth stuff. Yeah, look, there is a lot of that. If the body couldn't detox, yeah, it'd be a major issue, but it does. It can. So in that regard, so g'day, Jay. G'day, Mandy. Doesn't matter. I was late for my morning, Mandy. I was really late for my morning live stream. It took me half an hour to sort out my computer and actually reboot it. So people had to wait. So yes, one of those days. One thing that I do notice is with this one compared to StreamYard, it doesn't. Not a problem. See you, man. Yeah, that I've noticed is oops. What did I just do there? It's sort of like it's these ones, like when on the StreamYard, when it immediately pops up and all that, this sort of, because it pushes out the thing, it's sort of like a slight delay when it's sort of, did I actually click on that? Or yeah, it's I'm still getting used to it, in that regard, sort of, yeah. I don't really know enough about his protocol, what it is. The thing that I know is your body has to basically have the right nutrition to detoxify well. And, one of the best chelators is selenide from selenium when it comes to mercury in particular. It's the reason why I did that video about mercury and selenium in the fish and showed how certain fish, the ratio, when they've got a very high selenium, the mercury is irrelevant because it will bind to it and take it out. So it becomes a non-issue because it chelates it in the form of selenide. Anyway, Yep. Sounds good. Yeah, alpha lipoic acid is really good for, as an electron donor. B vitamins, because they help with a lot of the, the liver uses a lot of B vitamins to detox. Simple as that. I mean, you've probably heard me in the past where I've said to you guys, if you go out and have a binge of alcohol, if you want to detox, you're going to be using a lot of B vitamins, and that's one reason you're getting a headache the next day because of lack of B vitamins. You're burning through them. And certain minerals obviously are used as part of that. So yeah, I would basically agree with that if they're recommending that sort of stuff. And yep, eggs, organ meats. So you got organ meats, you got eggs, tuna's pretty high. Yeah, I know. The mercury to selenium, you go and check that video, you'll realize what I'm talking about. There's a number of other seafoods as well. So, yep. Yes. Thank you, Blinky. My new middle name, Taurine. Well, if you don't have selenium, you can't support your thyroid. So selenium, zinc. Actually, I know a lot of people talk about zinc important to convert T4 to T3. Actually, selenium actually is more important in that conversion process. That's one. Second, it actually downregulate. It can actually slightly reverse T3 to improve the functioning of the thyroid. And at the same time, it sort of balances out iodine, because iodine needs to be balanced. And selenium is the thing that balances it. So iodine doesn't get out of whack in the system. So you need iodine, and you need iodine to balance selenium, and selenium to balance iodine. So just one of those things to provide, and good nutrition. If you eat animal foods and you get enough macros in terms of meat and stuff like that, you'll notice. I go out in the winter, I don't feel cold. That's a sign of thyroid dysfunction. So if you're not eating carbs and shit like that, and you're eating a species-appropriate diet that's nutrient-dense, and vitamin D as well, getting enough vitamin D, because that helps with the thyroid function as well, it should all work pretty well. Vitamin D is very important, in particular if thyroid has autoimmune issues. Since Luke Gary, who has a thyroid autoimmunity, he's basically, increased some of this nutrition, plus exposing himself to the sun and increasing his vitamin D. And in the last year, because I had a live stream with him today, and we were chatting after, and he was telling me how better he was, and asking me a bit about how he should go about getting himself checked to see where he's at in terms of antibodies. And I did say he should, because his current doctor's, so to look for another practitioner. So he's seen massive improvements. Vitamin D is very important for autoimmunity. Your immune system is dysfunctional, not working properly. It's because you're deficient in vitamin D. And the things to balance out vitamin D is retinol, and you need, because they will both transcript a lot of enzymes, so you need MK4 to support that. So a bit of organ meats or some dairy products that have got MK4. So it's all, we need to have all these rich animal foods to basically support all the micronutrient requirements to allow these different parts of the body to function properly. Some people can get away with muscle meats only. That's because they have certain genetics that you don't need to basically, you can go from methionine to choline to folate. And if you've got that, you're lucky bastard, because you don't need those things in the diet. You can do it from muscle meat. And these people go, well, I'm just eating muscle meat and I've got no problems. And I'm going, well, you've got those genetics. And I can bet your bottom dollar that you've got those genetics if you did a genetics test. And others are going, I'm not getting the results. And I'm going, yeah, because you need the other micronutrients. Your body can't do those conversions. So get the stuff into you. That's usually a giveaway. If certain things are not really going optimally, maybe I need some organ meats. Maybe I need some eggs in there. Mario Lopez, the YouTuber who said veganism cures cancer, has died of cancer. Yeah, I know. There's actually another guy that actually also, and he died in his 40s from cancer, and he was a vegan as well. So another one died from cardiovascular disease again. Another vegan idiot that basically said, take statins. And not only that, take shitloads, absolutely shitloads of polyphenols, which was one, which is like low dose poisoning, plant poisoning. And then the other thing that he also took was phytosterols. So, the plant cholesterol. So he was taking shitloads of that to lower his human required cholesterol. When you actually take excess amount of that, it gets into the bloodstream. Guess where it goes? Into the red blood cells. When it goes in the red blood cells, guess what it does? It stiffens the red blood cells up. Now, if the red blood cells can't get into those little crevices, those much smaller arteries, what do you think happens in those areas if they're not getting enough oxygen? Hypoxic environment. Cellular senescence and death. Potentially part of the muscle not working properly. If that's the heart muscle, oh shit, heart attack. So yes, we've seen the vegan madness and their practitioners and their acolytes. Just goddamn fucking nonsense. Okay, so I'm on the detox, vegan detox to death. Exactly. Thanks, Melina. Well said. Well, it was basically lifelong vegan, vegetarian. Maybe it's not mercury exposure. My epigenetics are just fucked. Who knows? Yeah, who knows? Maybe. Remember Pottinger's cat, multiple generations. Yes. The sins of the parents. Yes. Yes, I know you meant addiction. That's why I explained it in those terms. That was, yes. Why does weed give you increased hunger? No fucking idea. I think it actually affects the same dopamine pathways that sugar does, and that's what it does, and makes you. I think that's what it is, basically. Yeah. So, gives you those dopamine hits and makes you quite ravenous about other things. So I suspect that's where it's coming from. Yes. We've already seen that one. That was, I think I've already seen that one, wasn't it? That was the Terminator. Yep. Yeah. Other people, it's ridiculous, more difficult than just getting a second fridge. Yeah, I'm trying to figure. Yeah, look, have fun. I have issues with trying to manage my own life and family and relatives and my sisters and yeah. So, and nowadays I try and avoid sort of yes. Yes, Blinky. Yes, he's a true comedian. Thank you, Blinky, for the entertainment. And from Hungary. You can actually order it from Hungary. If you Google, there's and they do have, I know they sell metabolic water. Look, do you need it? Unless you've got cancer, you don't need metabolic water. You just need fat. You need to hydrate with fat, and that will do it. Metabolic water is only to be used in people that have got things like cancer, that have got certain intractable conditions like severely damaged mitochondria and stuff like that. That's where it's used, and it has to be used carefully because you can cause, without enough sodium and enough of the electrolytes, you can cause some issues in the mitochondria. Sodium is very important for energy production in the mitochondria, and so you need to have good electrolyte balance if you're taking metabolic water. And I've recently understood that much better. So that's important. Yeah, unless you've got really some condition that you really require it, I don't see the need for it or the expenditure. It's quite expensive. Let's put it that way. Animal fat giving you deuterium depleted water is much cheaper, believe me. What just happened? Taurine, what's your take on gallbladder issues? Use it or lose it, mate. Use it or lose it. If you're eating a species inappropriate diet for a very long time, like most people do, what they do is they tend to eat too much carbohydrate, not enough fat. As a consequence, having a low-fat diet, your gallbladder basically starts accumulating and not being used. It doesn't actually secrete as much and as often. And as a consequence, it starts sort of building up and it's also due to lower levels of taurine, because taurine, it gets overused for the detoxification of your liver. So, because remember that a lot of these people aren't getting choline in, they're not getting other sulfur amino acids and all that. So the only endogenous, sulfurs that are coming in that can be utilized for detoxification and all that is just taurine that is synthesized by your own body, and that declines with age. It falls off a cliff after 65, but you will deplete some of that, and as a consequence, you won't be able to emulsify and you will eventually get more hardened gallstones, and that will create issues. And that is why with low-fat diets, we've got an epidemic of gallstone issues around in most countries. If you go back to the 50s and 60s, when people were eating far more animal fats, it's very rare. Now that people are eating mostly kibble and processed shit and very little fat, animal fat, the levels of just off the show. So, no, and it's not hereditary at all. Gallbladder, if you go and look at the research, which I've looked, gallbladder removals have absolutely mushroomed since the guidelines came in the 70s. Prior to the 1977 nutritional guidelines from the USDA, when people were eating more animal fats, we didn't have these big issues. Nowadays, they've gone through the roof. And the doctors they tell you, we have no idea what causes it. It may be hereditary. Bullshit. Genetics don't change in one generation or two. They take multiple generations to get that sort of level of expression in a population. It's bullshit. It's the diet. Simple as that. It's the old thing. Use it or lose it. If you're not getting enough fats in to force the excretion, basically the gall, it's holding on to the bile, waiting for fat to come along so it can excrete. If you're not eating fat at all or eating very little, it's going to excrete very little because it only needs very little. But as it builds up and it's not being used, and then you're taxing the taurine because you're using it because you're having a species inappropriate diet, inflaming yourself, having to use more taurine as a sulfur for detoxification purposes. And as a consequence, because you're not even getting enough meat in, you're not getting methionine. So you have to tax the taurine side. That actually also reduces the amount of taurine, helping the gallbladder to function properly. So it's the sad diet, unfortunately, that is causing these problems. That's why, when you hear about, and don't do a gallbladder flush, you could potentially cause yourself more problems. High doses of taurine over a long time will emulsify better, break it down, and actually allow it to flow better and clear out all the sludge and everything else. That's a much safer way. It takes longer, yes, but that's the way to do it safer. It's going to be part of the video in the future, but anyway, I'm giving away a bit now, but that's okay. There's going to be an official video that will basically explain it thoroughly so we can get away from all this. Dry throat syndrome. Now, so that's the problem, because we're overtaxing our endogenous taurine, and we've got less for other purposes. Anyway, oh, for fuck's sake, don't do that to me again. It's like fumble fingers with me. Question, Harry. Carnitine used to be supplemental drug of choice along with caffeine, ginkgo. Carnitine you can get from food. If you do want to supplement, if you're into bodybuilding and stuff like that, and you require a bit more, yep. It's like creatine. If you require, I've got creatine, but I don't use it every day. I use it only when I'm doing some weightlifting. That's it. Yep. So, and caffeine. I just did a little video just a while ago for you guys on caffeine about genetics and, whether it's good for you or not, whether you can handle it or not, to be more precise. Yeah. Oh, look, ginkgo and stuff like that, they have like a hermetic effect. Do you need it? Probably not. Just a waste of money. Most things are nowadays. People did fine. There are plenty of longevity people that never took any of these ginkgo and shit and whatever, Mako and whatever supplement and all that. So they just had a cleaner diet. They didn't eat shit. Moved, had a good family relationship, blah, blah, blah. So, yeah, overrated. Some stuff, yes, especially in a more toxic environment, and because we've done things to ourselves over time, we need to sort of remedy those with slightly supplemental stuff. That's the only difference. Look, it just helps, like creatine and all that. It just helps. It provides that additional material that the body needs. Depends what you're doing, really. So, I mean, if I was to get back into heavy bodybuilding and stuff like that, or into weightlifting and stuff like that, I mean, I did quite a lot when I was a much younger person, but that's when I would probably supplement these, especially creatine loading. But nowadays, I'm not really into that gig to that severe level. I've got the information, but I do some more maintenance than anything else. Also, my partner doesn't want me to be bulky and big, or too big, So women like muscular men, but not excessively muscular. You know what I mean? Yes. In addition to my question, I understand taurine and glycine are used by gallbladder. Yep. Is my carnivore diet protective as I haven't had any issues? I would say so. Because you get, look, we're going to get those those nutrients in much greater amount than anybody on any other diet. So if we can't be well, there's no hope for anyone. And I doubt that, because if you take a look back, gallbladder issues, even when people consuming less meat, but much more than most people do nowadays, had no issues. So I would say yes, the answer would have to be yes, that it is slightly protective. But it's all dependent on previous indiscretions and what state of affairs your body is in, that you may have to supplement for a short-term period to clear that out, to correct it, and then you're back to normal. But since you don't have a problem, not an issue. Oops. Oh, 2 thumbs up for the Eurasian stream. Oh, thank you, Sam. And Alex put this up, which was very nice of Alex. Yeah, the DDW 25. Yep, that's very low for humans and should never be taken unless you really have. Even people that have got cancer, I don't recommend such a low dose. Our bodies are slightly different to animals. So I usually recommend the other ones, which are around about the 85 or slightly lower, and to monitor and see how things are going. And if it needs to go, because cancer is a funny thing. When the oncogenes are downregulated, all these sort of pathways, you've still got the senescent damaged cells that have a potential risk. If you've got this lower threshold, you get into a lower threshold of deuterium. It seems there are some sort of remodeling issues that take place that can make you vulnerable to just slightly above those levels after. So you've got to be very careful. You want to bring it down. Remember, the safe zone is between 100 and 130. So you want to be slightly below that, like 85 or whatever, and that's like a really severe ketogenic diet. Like a really high-fat ketogenic diet will get you to those levels of 80 or 70 parts per million. And at that level, you'll get the same results. Don't want you creating new adaptive situation where it can make you vulnerable again for future things because you're going above that, because the machinery of dehydrogenase or the depleting of deuterium and the managing of hydrogen ions is slightly altered, and there's some anecdotal stuff that possibly can happen, and that's why you have to be very careful. This is one for dogs, not for humans. There's a company, they probably have also, I suspect that company is also for the Hungarians that bring that, and they've also got the other metabolic water for the actual humans. So you got to be very careful with these things, how you apply them. G'day, Loki. God, you must have. Hello, someone waking up early to move away from home. Good to hear, mate. Don't forget to see that doctor lady when you get, try and actually get something happening with that. Anyway, yes, hi, Loki. Yeah, it's fucking expensive. That's why I say it's much cheaper. It's much cheaper animal fats. The very low deuterium. The lowest deuterium animal fats are the omega-3s in fish. The fats in fish are much lower. The lard is the lowest animal fat. It's lower than tallow. So that's the sort of things. I know that that Laszlo Boris, the Hungarian that does a lot of the research out of UCLA in terms of deuterium depletion. I know that Laszlo, he loves pork fat, pork raw. He actually consumes even a lot of raw pork. Yeah, I know, cured, but raw bacon and stuff like that. Fuck. Yeah, very few academics you find like that, I can tell you. Yes. I would not recommend that sort of stuff if you've got leaky gut, and poor stomach acid. So just making it clear. And especially nowadays, because you don't know the sourcing of some of this. Yeah, it's extremely expensive. It's really fucking expensive, So as I say, you got to be, things that really have to be bad. Yep. That's it. The last stream for this week. Yeah, is. Pretty much coming to the end of tonight's so I'm just quickly going. Don't know enough about it. I know of their group. A lot of their meats tend to be very lean, and they do eat some tubers and stuff like that. So I don't know whether that has an effect. Not enough animal fats. Not sure, or whether it's just one of those. I know that they tend to have very low. Their environment tends to be very limited in nutrition. And that's probably one of the key things, because if you take a look like in, where was it? Florensis Island in Indonesian archipelago, where they found that population of where they thought they were hobbit type people, and they had very limited in their environment of nutrients or nutrition, and they tend to be quite short, even though they were related to the Denisovans and some early hominins and human, sort of part of the human family, but so I suspect something similar is at play there as well. That it's been a sort of a very long period of time of low nutrients and that's just sort of, it's a bit like a lot of the Asians that were very nutrient poor, very undernourished for a very long time. And so when you're very undernourished over multiple generations, you end up becoming shorter. That's the classical thing. So I suspect, because I have heard that their environment that they sort of operate in is very limited in resources compared to other areas. So I think that's the driver, because that's similar to all other humans around the planet. When there's less nutrition, you're shorter, smaller, and that becomes epigenetically pronounced over generations. So if you take a look at Northern Europeans, much taller on average. Why? Again, much more animal products over multiple generations. Now you're starting to see some of the younger people that are eating kibble and junk and all that are much shorter than some of their parents or grandparents. Again, because they are deliberately making themselves nutrient deficient, so that's a different thing altogether. But yeah. So you've asked me multiple times, I noticed, trying to get the question in. That you got my answer. Yep. 2 drops. Yep. Get it sorted out. Yeah, it is. It is quite comfortable. It's quite nice. I'm still getting the hang of it. Mandy is sort of trying to get used to it. It's sort of, in that regard. Yep. Eggs are very important. Yes, get the eggs in. Yes. I saw a nurse talking about something mentioning about autoimmune. Vitamin D, very important for that. If you're not sure, get your status checked. I had it earlier. I actually had it earlier. I'm fasting. That's why. I had it earlier. I had my steaks earlier, midday after the other program finished. So I can actually fast for the next 3 days. So that's the only reason. So there's only water here. No, nothing else. Anyway. So be it. It's what happens. Me and my puppy, both nose to tail carnivore. From infancy, diet pup will live the best health in life. Yep, exactly. Particularly, yeah, they cats, dogs, very important. Okay, let's. And the last one. Carnitine is supposed to inhibit glycation. Is that and the energy boost myth? Just marketing? No, actually there is some truth to it. Carnitine does have a slight anti-glycating effect. So does taurine. And taurine also has like an antioxidant effect as well. A lot of these things can actually seem to also interact with some proteins in the body in certain ways. So there's a lot of things that we don't know. We know that we can see that when you like putting glycation into a rat and then give it a whole lot of carnitine, it actually lowers the glycation effect. So we know it happens. But do we understand the mechanism? No. So anybody that tells you that they know the mechanism, tell them, show me the study. There is none that actually shows mechanism. But we know it's happening, but it's like taurine has an antioxidant effect, but we don't understand the mechanism. But we know it happens. It's where we understand the mechanism of taurine basically playing this detoxifying capacity as a sulfur amino acid, the way like other sulfurs are combined to oxalate, the way it can actually cause emulsification. We understand that mechanism. There's things that we understand, things that we don't understand. It's just one of those things, so we're still trying to understand a lot of these things, but it's not a massive anti-glycating thing. It has a mild anti-glycating effect. So you can have too much glycation and it's not going to do much at all. So it has a mild, it's like a lot of things. It's, if you put more good things into your body, you'll actually have more benefits than if you put bad things into your body that cause more oxidative stress, glycation, blah, blah. So it's not an entire myth. Dryness. It's a warm day as well, which doesn't help. And I've got the fan on trying to keep myself cool. So it does tend to be, yes, when you do a long live streams to dry your throat out. Oops. 2 drops. 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 2 Feeling better with some raw lately. Yep. Nothing wrong with having a bit, Terry. Yes. Thank you, Melina. Yes. Great company. Anyway, guys, I'm going to wrap it up there. It's been about a bit over 3 hours now. It's been a nice long session. And I do appreciate everybody for being here. Thank you for turning up and, supporting the live stream. Take care. Do pop by now and then and check out some of my other stuff on my channel. And I will see you lovely people next week, and we'll be doing the same thing. There'll be the morning, 10:30 Australian Eastern Standard Time for the standard live stream, and then there'll be basically the evening one when it comes to, oops, is that coming up? The evening one when it comes to, come on, click, the Eurasian one. So Eurasian one will be happening every week from now on. So basically people from Europe to East Asia will basically be seeing me every week from now on. So that was the whole aim. StreamYard only gave me 20 hours, basically a month. So it was really hard to sort of manage the time slots in that regard. So some weeks there was just 1 or 2 or, of the amount of the Eurasian live streams. And I sort of wanted a more regular thing, because I do have a lot of my supporters are in 3 parts of the world primarily: Europe, Australasia, and North America. And I was catering for Australia very well, but I wasn't, and North America, but Europe I wasn't covering well. And I think now that I've got this stream service happening, I'll be able to cater for, because look, a lot of you guys don't get an opportunity. You have to sometimes wait a month or a number of weeks before you can actually ask me questions about different things. And so it makes it easier for you guys to get an opportunity to interact with me in that regard. What's Blinky saying? God, no, not euro each week. Yep, exactly, Blinky. Well, more trolling for you, Blinky, And remember, these Euro people, they're not going to put up with your shit. Westy, they'll give you a bit of a slapping. Especially Alex, he'll give you a good run for your money. Yes. You'll be seeing me once a week. Yes, exactly. I know you'll enjoy it, Melina, and plenty of the other guys. It's something that I've really wanted to basically get there, so because I just felt that I had the North America, because my biggest support base is in Australasia. In particular, the majority of my followers are Australians. The second biggest is North America. That's why they were given priority. And the third biggest is in Europe. There's a few other people in subcontinent India, a few other parts of Asia and stuff like that, which is nice. I'd love to get more of those people. And that's another reason for doing the Eurasian weekly, try and find a way of actually doing, because it'll give me an opportunity to try and tap into more of these people. Some people in Eastern Europe, some people in Southern Europe, some people in parts of Asia. So I think I even got one person that did pop in occasionally from Nigeria as well. So it's, I'm starting to filter out into a few other parts of the world, which is good. So it's only a matter of time. There'll be more of that in that regard. And that's why I've been trying to find a different way. I tried to use Zoom. you don't know the difficulties that I actually found. So that didn't work. I trying to use it, OBS, and try to combine it. Crashed my machine a couple of times, didn't work. It drove me up the wall. Then I found another service, but they only gave you 4 hours. I go, ugh. And then I came across this one, which is, it doesn't give you all the bells and whistles you find in some of the others, but it's not too bad. It's about very similar to StreamYard, but with more hours. So I'm happy, because I can do more streaming on the Sunday and cater for other people in other areas. So what's Blinky saying? Blinky. Gotta look after our own Harry. Bugger the Northerners. You really know how to make friends, don't you, Blinky? Harry's global domination agenda. I wouldn't go that far. It'd be nice to be far more popular, but yes, Utopia. If Utopia had something to do with that, I suspect they would definitely limit my growth anyway. But at the end of the day, look, you're the guys that are basically going to get, if you share my content around, and I mean, obviously live streams are very difficult to share, but if you share other things that, some of the clips on different things, you hear people saying, about coffee, you can share the one that I just did today on coffee. You see basically other people talking about, mercury in fish and all that. You can go and put that one there, talking about taurine and some other functions that it does. Some of the stuff there may be relevant to certain people. You can post it on different, or to your friends or whatever. It's only you guys that are going to basically help me grow. The YouTubia is not going to really help. They're really throttling the growth of smaller channels, and especially if they're not monetized. And as you guys know, that's not my goal, to basically. So yeah, you guys have to really get me known, because that's the only way it's going to work. Yep, exactly. And that's, because I've got a day job and it's very hard to actually do as much material. It's, it's always a struggle, so it's a matter of some of the material that's there. If it's relevant, share it. Sometimes you can just say, look, this is a good channel. You get good information. You get a lot of answers to a lot of issues and stuff like that for free. So check it out. So you can post my whole channel to your social media. So that helps as well. So, I mean, I don't really care how people share my content or my channel or whatever. It all sort of helps. It gives me a reason to turn up, basically. If the channel basically keeps on growing, then there's a reason for me to. It sort of motivates me to do more, if you understand what I mean. Where if it's sort of like sluggish, nothing's really happening, it's not really going anywhere, then I wonder, well, why am I wasting my time, sort of thing. So it's just, look, I understand what you mean, Melina, but at the same time, I try as much as possible to keep it as simple. As you notice, I sometimes have to stop myself from thinking in terms of biochemistry or biophysics or whatever terminology, and just basically use simple language. Because at the end of the day, even if, let's say, And even you know, and to some extent, Bart did the same thing when he brought me on a number of occasions. Like, you know, he would say, "Look, come on," and just basically explain it in the simple way you explain it. And I've done that a number of times for him because he likes that style. Because sometimes it just, I don't like using. I try and take complex things like what people like Jack Cruz will talk about and make it simple, you know, and actionable, you know, so people can say, okay, I can do this in my home. I can get these things in my home. I can wear these glasses or do this or that. And that will actually, because that's really what you guys want to know. You don't want to know the complex, you know, I mean, sometimes the stuff that I look at, Laszlo Boris, you look at the stuff that he does at UCLA, and he's got a lecture where he actually shows all these different biochemical pathways. Now, that's a waste of time for the majority of people, you know, and you take a look at the amount of people that have actually looked at the videos, just tiny as, because it's just too complicated for the majority of people. Unless you've studied biochemistry, you're not going to understand it. It's a waste of time. And my approach is to try and actually make it as accessible as possible, trying to take a complex message and really just make it easy to digest by most people. And I know that there's a certain threshold of people that I'm not going to touch ever, because even at that level they'll find it complicated. I just can't help that. It may encourage them if they come and look at some of the material and they go, I need to basically improve my understanding. So especially if they've got an ailment. If they don't and they're young, they probably are more interested in seeing some dog do some stupid thing, and it'll probably get 10 million clicks. That's true. It's just the way the world is, unfortunately. You know, I mean, I look at it and sort of, I wonder, go, oh God, what a crazy world we live, where nonsense like that is valued far more than other things. So yeah, look, I know what you mean. Oh God, you would Blinky, wouldn't you? Fucking oh God. No, I'm not taking my clothes off either. I'd have Mira kill me if I did something like that. God almighty. Most Neanderthals will flee. Yeah. Yes, there are plenty of Luddites out there. Yes, it's sad. Yes, unfortunately. Blinky, Blinky, Blinky. You're as bad as Fapnado. Your mind is continually in the gutter. No, they don't. Actually, they don't. They don't need to. You know, people have got other jobs. They've got other professions and all that. I looked into this stuff and I actually educated myself. The only reason for it because I had a heart condition a decade ago and I needed to reverse all that. I need to understand because the doctors weren't really giving me solutions. So I had a reason to dwell into that, but most people don't. And most people take the pill. They'll say, yep, give me the statin, give me this, give me that. They're not prepared to make the changes. You know, it's much easier just to take the damn pill. So unfortunately, that's the reality. And sometimes when the pill doesn't work and all that, they may come across something of mine and I may go, oh, that's interesting. And they may be willing to educate themselves a bit, but it's always a struggle. And my sort of sights are always going to be dealing with people that have got themselves down that rabbit hole because they couldn't resolve their issues. And because I've been there myself, I empathize and I know. Yes. You and Cornell and Pornhub. Fucking hell, Blinky. He's out of control, isn't he? You're not keeping him under control, nurse. Oh. Anyway, guys, 20 minutes later, I'm out of here. Thanks for being here and see you guys next week.